There is a kind of exhaustion that does not come from physical labor, but from having to brace yourself every day, just to keep everything from falling apart. It arrives quietly when you pray at night, yet your mind is still calculating. When you say, Amen, but your heart remains tight. When peace feels like a luxury, even more distant than money. Financial pressure does not only affect the wallet, it seeps into the life of prayer. It turns petitions into hurried words, layered with urgency and anxiety. Not because faith is lacking, but because the mind is overloaded. When every small decision carries the weight of survival, the soul has no space left to rest in God. But prayer was never meant to operate in panic. Prayer is where burdens are laid down. The miracle faith seeks is not always an immediate change of circumstances. More often, it is the return of quiet within the mind, the ability to breathe deeply again, the steadiness to say, I am still here, and the Father is still at work. When peace is restored, wisdom has room to stand. And from that place, a new path begins to open, not with noise, but with the very real guidance of God. Carrying financial weight does not make you a person of lesser faith. It simply means you have been pulled too close to survival and have not yet been allowed to rest in trust. When every thought revolves around, how will this be enough? The heart easily falls into an old pattern, gripping tightly out of fear, defending itself against loss, closing itself to guidance. Freedom in prayer does not come from having more money immediately. It comes from placing God in His rightful place. Not waiting for peace until everything is resolved, but praying so that peace can lead the decisions that follow. When money is seen as something entrusted, not something to cling to, the inner life begins to lighten. Creativity returns. Hope finds room to stand. At times, what God is doing is not adding more, but teaching how to release at the right moment. Not releasing responsibility, but releasing fear. From there, prayer returns to its true nature, a place of refuge, where discipline nurtures freedom, and freedom makes space for sustainable abundance. When financial pressure stretches on, a very specific issue often emerges. Money begins to control emotions and reactions. Every bank notification raises the heart rate. Every spending decision, no matter how small, carries the feeling of potential failure. This is not a moral failure. It is a psychological one. When the brain is kept in constant alert, it switches into survival mode. And in that mode, people stop thinking long-term, stop creating, stop hearing spiritual direction clearly. It is here that prayer is often misunderstood. Many pray to escape money, rather than to steward it. They avoid bank statements, avoid planning, avoid facing reality because every glance feels painful. But avoidance only deepens the problem. When money is kept in the dark, it becomes more frightening than it truly is. True prayer does not pull you away from reality. It gives you enough calm to look directly at reality without falling apart. When that calm appears, decisions become slower, clearer, and less driven by emotion. This is the turning point. Money is no longer the commander. It becomes a domain to be cared for with wisdom and order. And from that place, both faith and life begin to breathe again. Prayer at this moment is not a request to change the circumstances. It is a very grounded prayer, to have enough calm to do the next right thing. Open the spreadsheet, write down the debt, create a simple plan. It does not need to be perfect. It only needs to keep you from turning away and running. And it is right there. Very ordinary, very unspiritual by emotional standards, that real restoration begins. The core issue right now is that there is no fixed point of control for money. Everything is reactive. You spend when necessary, pay when deadlines arrive, panic when the account runs low. This way of living keeps the brain in a constant state of emergency. And in that state, No one prays or thinks wisely. The solution begins very concretely. First, choose one fixed day each week, at the same time, for one purpose only: to look at your entire financial picture. Do nothing else. Do not multitask. Do not pray long prayers. Simply look. This becomes your anchor point. Next, divide money into 3 clear categories. Money that must be paid: rent, utilities, debt, basic living expenses, and what remains. Do not idealize. Accept reality as it is. Then pray after you have looked. Do not ask for a miracle. Simply say, "I see clearly now. Show me the next step." Order comes first. Peace follows. The next step is to stop making decisions based on emotion. If every purchase is decided by, "Do I feel like it?" you will always lose. The solution is direct. Decide before emotion shows up. Create a short list, only 5 to 7 items, of what you are allowed to spend on this week. Do not add to it. Do not subtract from it. When you shop or open a spending app, you do not consider, you compare. This reduces pressure on the mind and breaks the cycle of anxiety, rushed decision, regret. Next, choose one single debt to prioritize. Not all of them, just one. Pay it consistently, on time, every month. Consistency matters more than amount. When the mind sees clear progress in one place, hope begins to return. Finally, offer a short prayer each time you follow the plan. Help me remain faithful. No eloquence, no forced emotion, just endurance. As calm returns, the next issue becomes clear: a lack of order. Not a lack of money first, but a lack of system. Many believers pray fervently while their finances operate emotionally, spending when they feel like it, avoiding when afraid, ignoring when exhausted. This creates a very specific cycle: anxiety, rushed decisions, regret, shame, avoidance, more anxiety. Faith does not break this cycle with instant miracles. It breaks it with gentle discipline. Prayer in the right place leads to a very practical question: what is the next wise step? It may be as small as recording the 3 largest expenses this week. It may be setting a fixed time to review your account. These small actions will not make you wealthy overnight, but they help you stand upright again. As order increases, fear decreases, and when fear is no longer in control, guidance becomes easier to hear. When prayer becomes steady again, something subtle begins to happen. Money may not appear immediately, but urgency withdraws. The heart is no longer forced to decide from fear, and that is when God has space to guide, not with thunder, but with very practical promptings. Discipline in the life of faith is not rigidity. It is like a frame that keeps a house standing in strong winds. When you pray at the same hour, when you pause before financial decisions, the mind slowly relearns how to wait. And in that waiting, wise choices begin to surface. Not by luck, but because the heart is finally calm enough to recognize what needs to be done next. You do not need to do everything perfectly right away. What is being asked now is small faithfulness each day. One calmer decision than yesterday. One unhurried prayer. When small things are held steadily, prayer and finances stop being separate parts of life. They begin to support one another, and peace becomes the foundation from which you move forward. When you begin to look seriously at your finances, the issue is not a lack of knowledge or a lack of faith. The issue is much simpler and much more human. You cannot bear the feeling of facing it. Each time you open your banking app, you are not only seeing numbers, you are seeing a history of choices. And the brain responds instinctively. Close it to stop the pain. This is a normal psychological response. When the mind associates money with danger and failure, it activates avoidance. You postpone. You say, "Next week." You pray more but do less. Not because you trust God more, but because concrete action forces you to look directly at what you fear. And so a very common pattern emerges. Prayer replaces action, not out of faith, but out of avoidance. The turning point to understand is this: God does not work instead of you in the places you refuse to face. He works with you in the places you are willing to confront. Not after everything is tidy, but right in the middle of the mess. Faith does not demand that you become wealthy overnight, but it does call you to honesty, consistency, and responsibility for your next step. When you do the 3 things already named, establish a fixed point of review, decide before emotion takes over, and stay consistent with one debt goal. The first change is not financial. It is internal posture. You stop lowering your head to avoid. You begin to stand upright. And when posture changes, the ability to see new solutions begins to appear. At this stage, prayer is no longer a cry for rescue and panic. It becomes a steady rhythm, moving alongside action. Peace no longer depends on today's bank balance, but on the certainty that you are walking in the right direction. If you have followed this far, understand this clearly. You have not failed. You are relearning how to live with order, and that, not quick money, is the true foundation of lasting abundance.